A country was kicked out of the world's most advanced fighter jet program. And just 5 years later, it built its own stealth jet and flew it into the sky. How does a nation go from buying 80% of its weapons abroad to building 80% at home and selling $7.1 billion worth of arms in a single year? What happened that the entire world completely missed? Imagine being banned from the biggest weapons club on Earth, then creating your own club, your own weapons, your own rules, until more than 30 countries lined up to buy from you instead. Here's what nobody talks about. This one nation now controls NATO's second largest army. It rewrote the rules of drone warfare, and it can choke off an entire sea in wartime with a single decision. If you think Turkey is just another struggling country stuck between Europe and the Middle East, you're about to have your mind blown. Because what Turkey built in just 2 decades will shock the world and terrify its enemies. Picture this: a drone lifting off from a warship in open water. No pilot, no catapult, no foreign tech, just Turkish engineering, something no other nation has pulled off. This is the untold story of how Turkey became a silent superpower and why the world can no longer ignore it. At the start of the 2000s, Turkey was almost fully dependent on foreign weapons. Nearly 80% of its military gear came from the US, Europe, or Russia. Every major fighter jet, every advanced tank, every modern missile had a foreign label. This dependence made Turkey strong on paper, but dangerously weak in reality. If allies blocked sales, the military stood still, and that's exactly what happened. In the early 2000s, the US delayed deliveries of critical drones. In 2019, after buying Russian S-400 missiles, Turkey was kicked out of the F-35 stealth jet program. Billions were lost. Prestige was destroyed. But instead of collapsing, Turkey made a shocking decision. If the world wouldn't sell it weapons, it would build its own. Billions of dollars were poured into new factories, new labs, and new companies. By 2024, the numbers told the story. Over 80% of the weapons in Turkey's hands were homegrown, and instead of importing, Turkey started exporting. Drones, warships, missiles, and armored vehicles were now being shipped to more than 30 countries. From Qatar to Ukraine, from Africa to Asia, Turkey's weapons were in demand. In 2024 alone, arms exports hit $7.1 billion, a national record. This wasn't just a turnaround, it was a revolution. A country once mocked as dependent now stood as one of the world's fastest growing arms suppliers. And behind this rise was a new military doctrine. Instead of waiting for allies, Turkey would rely on itself. And it worked. From the battlefield in Syria, to the deserts of Libya, to the skies over Ukraine, Turkish-made drones and weapons began changing wars. This was the birth of Turkey's modern military identity, not a buyer, a builder. And that shift unlocked the next step, one weapon that stunned the world. What did Turkey create that forced even superpowers to pay attention? Here's the fact that blows most people's minds. Turkey commands NATO's second largest standing army, right behind the United States. We're talking about 355,000 active duty soldiers. With reserves, the total passes 700,000 troops. But raw numbers aren't what makes Turkey dangerous. It's geography. Turkey controls the Bosphorus and Dardanelles, 2 narrow straits that connect the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. Under the 1936 Montreux Convention, Turkey can legally close these straits during wartime. And when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, Turkey used that power, blocking Russian warships from reinforcing through the Black Sea. Imagine holding the keys to a door that links 2 seas, 3 continents, and the fate of wars between superpowers. That's not just geography, that's leverage. And here's the twist nobody expected. Despite Turkey's clash with America over the S-400 missiles, the US still signed a $23 billion deal in 2024. 40 brand new F-16 Block 70 jets, 79 older F-16s upgraded with modernization kits. Why would Washington agree? Because even America knows you cannot afford to lose Turkey. But Turkey isn't planning to rely on F-16s forever. While the world obsessed over politics, Turkey was quietly building something else, something the world didn't see coming. And Turkey's balancing act makes this even wilder. That's not luck, that's strategy, it's survival, and it's working. Oh, and one more fact. That makes Turkey one of the few non-nuclear states hosting actual nukes. Talk about playing geopolitical chess at the highest level. So Turkey has the army and the choke points. But what about the Air Force? Can Turkey really compete with the best? In February 2024, Turkey's first fifth-generation stealth fighter, the KAAN, took off. It wasn't a model or a promise. It was a working aircraft. By the 2030s, it is expected to join full squadrons. That makes Turkey one of only 5 nations able to design and build a stealth jet from scratch. But Turkey's biggest breakthrough didn't start with KAAN. It started with drones. The Bayraktar TB2 changed modern warfare. Sold to more than 30 countries, it was used in Syria, Libya, Nagorno-Karabakh, and Ukraine. In Ukraine, TB2s destroyed Russian tanks, air defense systems, and convoys during the first months of the 2022 invasion. A $5 million drone wiping out targets worth tens of millions made militaries around the world take notice. Turkey then built the Akıncı, a larger drone that carries cruise missiles. Next came the TB3, the world's first carrier-capable combat drone. In 2023, it launched and landed on Turkey's assault ship, TCG Anadolu, without a catapult or foreign assistance. Not even the US Navy has achieved this. Turkey is now testing the Anka 3 and Kızılelma, stealth drones designed to work with the KAAN. They are jet-powered, can strike autonomously, and are built to avoid radar. Here's what makes this unique. No other country, not America, not China, not Russia, fields drones across the full spectrum. Cheap tactical UAVs, heavy armed drones, carrier drones, and stealth drones. Turkey built the entire ladder of drone warfare. It has proven it can dominate the air. But can it also dominate the sea? 3 words changed naval warfare for Turkey. TCG Anadolu. It's the country's first drone-carrying amphibious assault ship. This isn't just another warship. It's a floating drone carrier. The TB3 drones we discussed earlier, they can launch directly from this deck. No other nation has fielded a ship like this. Turkey just invented a new category of naval power, and they're the only ones doing it. But Anadolu is only the beginning. Turkey also commissioned the TCG Istanbul, the first of its indigenous I-class frigates. It carries the MIDLAS vertical launch system, firing Turkish-built missiles. These aren't refurbished imports. They're brand new warships built in Turkish shipyards with Turkish technology. For a country that once begged for second-hand ships, this is a complete turnaround. Then came submarines. The Race-class AIP submarine, starting with TCG Piri Race, brought a new capability. AIP stands for Air Independent Propulsion, meaning it can stay submerged for weeks without surfacing. That makes it far harder to track or destroy. And Turkey is already developing the TF-2000 destroyer, a next-generation air defense ship. It's designed to shoot down ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and enemy aircraft at extreme ranges. Think of it as Turkey's version of America's Arleigh Burke destroyer. Together, these ships give Turkey one of the most capable navies in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Black Sea. Imagine building a fleet so advanced that even your rivals admit, "We didn't see this coming." And Turkey's Atmaca anti-ship missile, now in service, can strike targets over 200 kilometers away, beyond the range of most naval radars. Turkey clearly dominates the air and the sea. But how strong is its army on the ground? Let's look at what's moving across Turkish soil. Turkey fields one of NATO's most powerful armored forces. Hundreds of Leopard 2 and M60 tanks have been upgraded with Turkish-made armor, electronics, and weapon systems. And now they're rolling out the Altay, Turkey's first fully indigenous main battle tank. It's not imported. It's built in Turkey with Turkish technology. But tanks are just the beginning. Turkey produces the Fırtına self-propelled howitzer, battle-tested in Syria. They also developed the SOM cruise missile. It can strike targets more than 250 kilometers away. And it's now being tested with a fully indigenous engine. That means no reliance on foreign parts. Imagine building a missile that can fly low, avoid radar, and hit deep inside enemy territory without foreign help. That's the level of independence Turkey has achieved. But here's the project that could change the game. Turkey is building a national air defense shield known as the Steel Dome. It's designed to protect the country from drones, aircraft, cruise missiles, and even ballistic missiles. The system has 3 layers. Hisar A+ covers short range. And the crown jewel is Sniper, a long-range interceptor already tested in flight. Sniper can engage targets at altitudes and distances that rival Russia's S-400 and America's Patriot system. If it works as planned, Turkey will have one of the most advanced air defense networks outside the US, Russia, and China. Think of it like Israel's Iron Dome, but bigger, built at home, and covering a nation that spans 2 continents. And the specs are impressive. Cyper is expected to reach over 100 kilometers in range and intercept threats above 25 kilometers altitude. That's strategic level defense that many nations can only dream of. Building these weapons is one thing, but have they actually been tested in combat? Turkey is one of the few countries with weapons proven in real wars. Not drills, not practice, real combat. In Operation Euphrates Shield, Turkish forces cleared ISIS from northern Syria. In Operation Olive Branch, they captured Afrin from Kurdish groups. In Operation Peace Spring, they pushed into northeastern Syria against heavy fire. During Operation Spring Shield, Turkish drones destroyed Syrian tanks, artillery, and air defenses in only a few days. These battles were not easy. Turkey faced Russian-made weapons, militias backed by Iran, and the Syrian army itself. Yet they won every time. The big shock came in the Nagorno-Karabakh War. Azerbaijan used Turkish TB2 drones, artillery, and electronic systems to crush Armenia in 44 days. TB2S destroyed tanks, missiles, and guns with precision. That war is now studied by militaries around the world. Turkey proved it can fight with drones, electronic warfare, and precision strikes as one system. It was modern combined arms warfare in action. Turkish unmanned aerial vehicles have logged thousands of combat flight hours. That is more drone war experience than almost any other country. So why do many still believe Turkey is weak or outdated? For years, Western media painted Turkey as weak. When Turkey was kicked out of the F-35 program, analysts said their air force was finished. When they bought the S-400 from Russia, critics said they were leaving NATO. When they built drones, people mocked them as toys. Every one of those predictions was wrong. In 2024, Turkey's defense budget hit $25 billion. In 2025, it jumped to 914 billion lira, over $30 billion. That's one of the fastest increases in NATO. This is not decline. This is overdrive. While the world mocked them, Turkey built drones, tanks, missiles, and ships. They started exporting weapons to over 30 nations. Even countries that once ignored Turkey now buy from them. The S-400 crisis? It pushed Turkey to build its own air defense. The F-35 ban. It fueled the creation of KAAN. Every sanction became fuel for Turkey's rise. They even sell to other NATO members. The myth of Turkish weakness is not just false, it's dangerous. Because while rivals laughed, Turkey built the tools to defeat them. So why should the world care about Turkey's power right now? They control the Black Sea choke points. They host NATO nuclear weapons. And now they field a military built almost entirely at home. This is no longer regional power. This is global leverage. The Steel Dome online, mass-produced drones, and an expanding navy, Turkey is on track to join the top 10 militaries on Earth. And they're doing it without permission from Washington, Moscow, or Beijing. This is about more than tanks, jets, and missiles. It's about sovereignty, independence, and reclaiming a voice on the world stage. For centuries, Turkey was the heart of an empire. They're not settling for being a footnote anymore. Turkey is becoming a global arms exporter. The same country once blocked from Western programs now sells weapons worldwide. That's not revenge, that's dominance. This rise directly challenges the old order, where only a few nations controlled advanced weapons. Now the club has a new member, and Turkey didn't ask to join. They forced their way in. By 2025, Turkish drones are fighting in 4 continents. That's not regional reach, that's global power. So the real question is, what does Turkey's rise mean for the future of global power? Turkey's rise isn't just a military story, it's a geopolitical shock. A nation once dismissed as regional is now a global force, reshaping wars, exporting technology, and holding leverage over NATO, Russia, and the Middle East. The real power isn't the army size or missile range, it's independence. While others wait for approval, Turkey builds. Every sanction, every setback became fuel. From buyer to builder, from dependent to. They were kicked out of the F-35, so they built KAAN. They didn't beg for drones, they built the best. The question now, how will the world react? Turkey's rise proves no nation is trapped by fate. With vision, investment, and the courage to stand alone, even the underdog can rise to the top. You just saw the untold story of one of the fastest and most shocking military transformations on Earth. Most people still don't know it. Now you do. If this story showed you the truth about Turkey's power, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because these stories only spread when you share them. Do you think Turkey will reach the top 5 militaries by 2030? Drop it below.